I still remember the exact moment my daughter asked me that question. Because it didn't feel like a question. It felt like a knife. Her small fingers were wrapped around the edge of her birthday cake, pink frosting smudged across her cheek like she had tried to wipe away happiness but failed halfway. The candles flickered softly. 8 of them. Each flame dancing like it had something to celebrate. But I didn't. Because I was too busy looking at her eyes. And realizing something had changed. "Papa," she said quietly. Her voice wasn't excited. It wasn't playful. It was careful. The kind of careful that doesn't belong to a child. I forced a smile anyway. What is it, princess?" I leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "Make a wish first." She didn't look at the cake. She looked at me. Straight into my eyes. And for a second, I forgot how to breathe. "I already did," she said. A strange silence filled the room. Behind us, the decorations hung awkwardly. Cheap balloons, a banner that read "Happy Birthday Aisha," slightly crooked because I had taped it alone at 2 a.m. after finishing my shift. I tried to laugh it off. "Oh, that fast? Then blow the candles, come on." "I wished," she interrupted softly, "for a new father." Everything stopped. The candles were still burning. But something inside me went dark. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even understand what I had just heard. What? My voice cracked before I could control it. She lowered her gaze, staring at the cake now like it had suddenly become very important. "A new father," she repeated. Simple. Calm. Like she was asking for a toy. Like she hadn't just shattered me into pieces I didn't know how to pick up. I swallowed hard. Forced my hands to stay steady. "Why would you wish for something like that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light, like this was some kind of joke. But it wasn't. Kids don't say things like that as jokes. They say them when they've been thinking about it for a long time. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she used her small finger to trace a line through the frosting. "I just think it would be better," she whispered. Better. That word echoed louder than anything else. Better than me. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't laugh, I might have broken right there in front of her. "Hey, I know I'm not perfect," I said gently, crouching down to her level. "But you already have a father. Me." She nodded. "I know." "Then why would you want another one?" Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then she said something that I will never forget, no matter how hard I try. Because other fathers don't make their daughters cry. That hit harder than anything else. Not anger. Not rejection. Truth. I felt something tighten in my chest. Memories rushed in without permission. Late nights where I came home exhausted and snapped at her for small things. Times I ignored her drawings because I was too busy worrying about bills. Moments when I raised my voice. Just because life had raised its hand against me first. I never thought she noticed. But children always notice. "Aisha," I said slowly, my voice softer now. "Did I make you cry that much?" She didn't look up. But I saw her nod. Just a little. And somehow, that small movement felt heavier than anything in the world. The candles were melting now. Wax dripping down like quiet tears. Nobody had blown them out. Nobody had made a wish. At least, not one that could ever come true. I reached out, gently lifting her chin so she would look at me. Her eyes were watery. But she wasn't crying. That made it worse. "I'm sorry," I whispered. The words felt weak. Too small. Too late. But they were all I had. "I didn't know you felt like this." She blinked slowly. "I didn't want to tell you." "Why not?" "Because you get sad." That broke me in a completely different way. She wasn't afraid of me. She was protecting me. An 8-year-old girl, protecting her father's feelings. I pulled her into a hug without thinking. Tight. Desperate. Like if I let go, she might actually disappear and be replaced by that new father she wished for. "I'll do better," I said into her hair. "I promise. You don't need a new father. I can be better. I will be better." She didn't hug me back immediately. There was a pause. A hesitation. And that hesitation told me everything. Finally, her arms slowly wrapped around me. But it wasn't the same. Not like before. There was distance. Invisible, but real. Okay, she whispered. Just one word. But it didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like doubt. I pulled away and forced a smile again. Come on, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Let's blow the candles before they melt completely. She nodded. Together, we leaned in. And blew. The flames disappeared instantly. Darkness replaced them. And for a strange moment, it felt symbolic. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat alone in the living room. The decorations were still there. Half-deflated balloons. Empty plates. A cake that no one really enjoyed. And a wish that I couldn't ignore. A new father. I whispered to myself. The words didn't sound as ridiculous anymore. Because maybe, just maybe, she was right. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Thinking. Overthinking. Breaking everything apart inside my head. What if I really wasn't enough? What if trying to be better wasn't enough either? What if she deserved more than just promises? Then a dangerous thought entered my mind. Quiet. Slow. But powerful. What if I actually gave her what she wished for? I sat up immediately. Heart racing. No, that's crazy, I muttered. But the idea didn't leave. It stayed. Growing. Twisting. Turning into something real. Because if her happiness meant losing my place, then what kind of father would I be if I refused? That night, I didn't sleep. Not even for a second. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of failing as a father. I was afraid that I already had. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. The ceiling above me became my enemy. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face again. Not smiling. Not laughing. Just quiet. Disappointed. A new father. I whispered into the darkness again, like maybe if I said it enough times, it would stop hurting. But it didn't. It only started making more sense. And that was the scariest part. By 5 a.m., I gave up pretending I could rest. I got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Aisha. Her room door was slightly open, just the way she liked it. I stood there for a moment, watching her sleep. Her small body curled up under the blanket, one hand tucked under her cheek, the other still holding that little stuffed rabbit she had loved since she was 3. She looked peaceful. Innocent. Like she hadn't just changed my entire world with one sentence. I'll fix this, I whispered under my breath. I don't care how. The kitchen felt colder than usual. Maybe it was just me. I made tea, but I didn't drink it. It just sat there, getting cold. Just like everything else. My phone buzzed suddenly. I looked at the screen. Amy calling. For a second, I thought about ignoring it. I didn't have the energy to talk. But something inside me said, maybe you need to. So I picked up. Assalamu alaikum, Amy. Walaikum assalam. Her voice came warm, familiar, comforting. Beta, how was Aisha's birthday? Did she like it? I froze. The question felt too simple. Too normal. For something that had turned into a nightmare. Yeah, it was fine, I said quietly. There was a pause. Mothers always know. You don't sound fine, she said. I leaned against the kitchen counter, closed my eyes, and for the first time since last night, I let the truth slip out. She said she wants a new father. Silence. Not shock silence. Heavy silence. The kind that carries meaning. Beta, Amy said slowly, children don't say things like that without reason. I know, I replied quickly, frustration rising. I know that. You think I don't know that? My voice was louder than I intended. I rubbed my forehead. I messed up, okay? I wasn't there enough. I was tired, stressed. Did you hurt her? She asked gently. The question cut through everything. I didn't answer immediately, because the truth wasn't simple. I never hit her, I said after a moment. That's not what I asked. I swallowed hard. No, I whispered, but maybe I still hurt her. Another pause. Then she said something that stayed with me. Sometimes, Beta, silence hurts more than shouting. I looked at the cup of tea again. Still untouched. Still cold. What should I do, Amy? I asked, my voice weaker now. She thinks I'm not enough. No, she corrected softly. She feels something is missing. That's the same thing. No, she said firmly. It's not. I frowned. What's the difference? The difference is, one can be replaced. She paused. The other can be healed. Her words settled deep inside me, but they didn't remove the doubt. What if I can't fix it? I asked quietly, what if she's right? Amy didn't answer immediately, and somehow that scared me more than anything. Then you try harder, she finally said. Not by becoming someone else, but by becoming the father she already needs. I nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see me. Okay. But my mind wasn't convinced. Not fully, because another thought kept creeping in. What if trying harder wasn't enough? What if she really needed someone different? After the call ended, I sat there for a long time, thinking, overthinking, breaking everything apart again. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I opened my laptop. At first, I didn't even know what I was looking for. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then, slowly, I typed, "How to be a better father." Hundreds of articles popped up. Advice, tips, guides, all telling me things I already knew. Spend more time. Listen to your child. Be patient. I closed the tab, frustrated, because if it was that simple, she wouldn't have made that wish. Then, almost without thinking, I typed something else. Something heavier. Can a child have two fathers? This time, the results were different. Stepfathers, guardians, mentors. I stared at the screen, my heart beating faster. Maybe, I whispered, maybe she doesn't want to replace me. Maybe she just wants something I can't give. The thought made my chest tighten, but it also gave me a strange sense of direction. Later that morning, Aisha woke up. I heard her small footsteps in the hallway. Usually, she would run to me, jump into my arms, say, "Good morning, Papa," with that bright smile. Today, she didn't. She just stood at the kitchen door, quiet. "Good morning," I said gently, forcing warmth into my voice. She nodded. "Morning." The distance was still there, clear, painful. "I made breakfast," I said. "Your favorite." She walked in slowly, sat down, didn't smile, didn't complain, just ate. That hurt more than anything, because silence meant she had accepted something, and I didn't know what. "Aisha," I said carefully, sitting across from her. She looked up. "Yes." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning inside me all night. "If you had a new father?" My voice felt strange saying those words out loud. What would he be like? She didn't answer immediately. She thought about it. Seriously, like it was an important question. He would, she started slowly, play with me more. I nodded. Okay. He wouldn't get angry so fast. That one hit. Hard. And? I asked softly. She looked at me, straight into my eyes again. And this time, there was something different. Not anger. Not sadness. Just honesty. He would make you happy too. I froze. What? She nodded. You're always tired, she said quietly. And sad. I don't like it. My throat tightened. I'm not sad, I said automatically. She shook her head. You are. Children. They see everything, even the things we try to hide. I just thought, she continued, if I had another father, maybe you could rest. The world stopped again. This wasn't about replacing me. This wasn't about me not being enough. This was about her, worrying about me. An 8-year-old girl, thinking her father needed help. I didn't realize when my eyes started to burn. Aisha, I whispered. But I didn't know what to say next, because suddenly, everything felt different, and yet, even more complicated. That dangerous idea from last night? It came back, stronger, clearer, not as a fear, but as a possibility. What if I really brought someone into our lives? Not to replace me, but to give her what she thinks she needs? I looked at her, small, innocent, trying to fix problems she shouldn't even understand. And in that moment, I made a decision. I'm going to try something, I said quietly. She blinked. What? I forced a small smile. Something that might make both of us happier. She didn't fully understand, but she nodded anyway. Okay. And just like that, without realizing it, I had taken the first step toward a decision that would change everything. Some decisions don't feel like decisions. They feel like something slowly taking control of you, until one day, you realize you're already too far in to turn back. That's exactly how it started. For the next few days, I tried to act normal. Wake up, make breakfast, go to work, come back home, repeat. But nothing was normal anymore, because every time I looked at Aisha, I wasn't just seeing my daughter. I was seeing a child who thought she needed another father. And no matter how much I tried to ignore it, the thought kept growing. At work, I couldn't focus. Files blurred together. Numbers stopped making sense. Even my boss noticed. Everything okay? He asked, standing near my desk. Yeah, I said quickly. Just tired. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded and walked away. Tired. That word again. Aisha had said it too. You're always tired. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been living on autopilot for too long. Providing, but not really being there. During my lunch break, I sat alone outside the office building.
My poena in my hand.
That same thought returning again. What if I really do this? I opened my browser. My fingers hesitated, then typed. Single father support groups near me. Results popped up instantly. Community centers. Online forums. Local meetups. I clicked one randomly. A small group. Weekly meetings. Parents sharing struggles. Advice. Support. I stared at the screen. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the first step. Not replacing myself, but finding help. That evening, I signed up. I didn't tell Aisha. Not yet. Because I didn't even know what I was doing. A few days later, I found myself standing outside a small community hall. My heart beating faster than it should. This is stupid, I muttered under my breath. I don't belong here. But my feet didn't move. After a long moment, I pushed the door open. Inside, about 10 people were sitting in a circle. Some older. Some younger. Some looked exhausted. Some looked hopeful. All of them looked like they were carrying something. A woman in her 40s smiled at me. First time? She asked gently. I nodded. Yeah. Come in, she said, gesturing to an empty chair. You're not alone here. That sentence hit me harder than expected. I sat down quietly, not sure what to say, not sure what to feel. The session started. People began sharing their stories. A man talked about losing his wife and struggling to raise his son alone. A woman spoke about working 2 jobs and never having time for her kids. Another father admitted he hadn't spoken to his daughter properly in months, even though they lived in the same house. And suddenly, I didn't feel so different. When it was my turn, I froze. All eyes were on me, waiting. Hi, I started awkwardly. I'm Aisha's father. A few soft smiles. Encouraging. I swallowed hard. My daughter, I paused. She wished for a new father on her birthday. The room went completely silent. No judgment. No shock. Just understanding. I think I failed her, I continued, my voice quieter now. I work a lot. I get tired. I get angry sometimes, and I didn't realize how much it affected her. I looked down at my hands. They all say, be better. But what if I'm just not enough? That question hung in the air, heavy, Then the woman who welcomed me spoke again. "What makes you think she wants to replace you?" she asked. I frowned slightly. She said she wanted a new father. "Yes," she nodded. "But what did she mean?" I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure anymore. Another man spoke up. "Kids don't always know how to explain what they feel," he said. "They just describe what they think will fix it." I looked at him. "So, what does that mean?" "It means," he said gently, "she doesn't want a different father." He paused. "She wants a different experience." That hit something deep inside me. A different experience. Not a different person, but a different version of me. But what if I can't give that? I asked quietly. The woman smiled again. "Then you learn," she said. "And if you need help, you accept it." Help. That word again. I leaned back in my chair, thinking, processing. Maybe this was the answer. Not replacing myself, not stepping aside, but bringing someone in, to help me become better. A mentor, a guide, a presence, someone Aisha could look up to, someone who could give her the attention, energy, and warmth that I sometimes struggled to provide. And suddenly, the idea didn't feel crazy anymore. It felt possible. After the session ended, people started leaving. I stood up slowly, still lost in thought. "Hey," a voice said behind me. I turned around. It was the man who spoke earlier. Late 30s, calm expression, kind eyes. "You did good," he said. I gave a small, tired smile. Didn't feel like it. He chuckled lightly. "It never does the first time." We walked outside together. "I'm Seema," he said, extending his hand. I shook it. "Ali." "So," Seema said, "you really thinking about finding your daughter a new father?" I sighed. "When you say it like that, it sounds worse." He smiled. "Because it is." I looked at him, confused. "You don't replace yourself," he continued. "But you can expand your world." That word again. Expand. "She doesn't need less of you," he said. "She needs more from life." I stayed quiet, listening. "If you're thinking about bringing someone into her life," Seema added, "make sure it's not because you think you're not enough." "Then why?" I asked. "Because you want her to have more love," he replied simply. "Love. Not replacement. Not escape. Just more love." I nodded slowly. "Yeah," I said. "That makes sense." Before leaving, he added one last thing. "Be careful, though." I looked at him. "Kids don't just attach easily," he said. "But when they do, it matters." I understood what he meant. This wasn't a small decision. This could either help her, or hurt her even more. That night, when I got home, Aisha was sitting on the floor, drawing. She looked up. "Hi, Papa." There it was. A small smile. Not big. Not bright. But it was there. "Hi," I said softly. I sat down next to her. Looked at her drawing. It was a family. 3 figures. 1 small girl in the middle. And 2 taller figures on each side. I stared at it. My heart beating faster. "Who's that?" I asked quietly, pointing to the second figure. She looked at the drawing. Then at me. "I don't know yet," she said. And somehow, that answer said everything. I don't know yet. Her words stayed with me long after that moment. Not loud. Not dramatic. But quiet and unfinished. That drawing sat on the table the entire evening. 3 figures. 1 space, not fully defined. Not erased. Not complete. And for the first time, I realized something that made my chest feel heavy in a completely different way. Aisha wasn't asking for someone specific. She was leaving space for someone to exist. That night, I didn't avoid the thought. I leaned into it. After dinner, Aisha went to her room earlier than usual. No complaints. No stories. No, "Papa, sit with me." Just a soft, "good night." And again, that silence hurt more than anything. I stayed in the living room. Lights dim. Phone in my hand. Same as words echoed in my head. Don't do it because you think you're not enough. Do it because you want her to have more love. More love. I opened my contacts list. Scrolled. Stopped. Scrolled again. Friends. Most were busy with their own lives. Family. Too far. Too complicated. Then I paused on a name I hadn't thought about in years. Hassan. My fingers hovered over the screen. Hassan wasn't just a friend. He was someone who used to understand me without explanations. We grew up together. Same school. Same streets. Same dreams. But life doesn't care about same. We drifted apart. Not because of a fight. Not because of anger. Just time. Responsibilities. Distance. The last time I saw him was at my wife's funeral. The memory hit hard. Rain. People whispering. Condolences that felt empty. And Hassan. Standing quietly beside me. Not saying much. Just being there. After that day, we stopped talking. Not intentionally. Just, life happened. I stared at his name again. Would this even make sense? The idea felt strange. Random. But also, right. Because if there was one person I trusted, one person who was calm, patient, and kind, it was him. Before I could overthink it, I pressed call. The phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then, hello. His voice. Exactly the same. I didn't speak immediately. Suddenly. I didn't know what to say. Hello, he repeated. Yeah. Hassan, I said quickly. It's me. A pause. Then, Ali. There was surprise in his voice, but not discomfort. Yeah, I said. Another pause. Then a small, genuine laugh. Well, that's unexpected. I exhaled softly. Yeah, I guess it is. We didn't speak for a moment. Years of silence, sitting between us. So, he asked gently, everything okay? I looked around the empty room, at the drawings still on the table, at the space that wasn't filled. No, I said honestly. Not really. That was all it took. Tell me, he said. And I did. I told him everything. Aisha's birthday. Her wish. Her words. Her drawing. I didn't hide anything. Didn't soften it. Didn't pretend. And when I finished, there was silence on the other end. Not awkward silence. Thinking silence. That's a lot, Hassan said finally. Yeah. You okay? I laughed quietly. Do I sound okay? No, he admitted. Another pause. Then he asked the question I had been avoiding. What are you thinking of doing? I looked at the drawing again. My voice came out slower this time. I was thinking. I stopped. Started again. I was thinking maybe she needs someone else in her life. Hassan didn't respond immediately. Someone better? He asked carefully. No, I said quickly. Not better. I swallowed. Just more. That word again. More. And you thought of me? He asked. I let out a small breath. Yeah. Another pause. But this one felt different. Why? He asked. Because I trust you, I said simply. Silence. And because, I continued, my voice softer now. You're everything I'm not right now. That was hard to admit. But it was true. You're calm, I said. You listen. You don't lose patience. I lose all of that, too easily. Hassan sighed lightly. Ali, he said slowly, this isn't something small. I know. This is a child. I know. She could get attached. I know. Each word felt heavier. And what exactly are you asking me? He said. There it was. The question. I closed my eyes for a second. Then said it. I want you to be part of her life. Silence. Not instead of me, I added quickly. Just, with me. Still silence. Then. You're serious? Yeah. Do you even know what that means? No, I admitted. but I know what happens if I do nothing. I look toward Aisha's room. She starts believing she needs someone else. My voice dropped. And maybe one day, she actually finds that someone. That fear was real. Hassan finally spoke again. I need to think about this. Of course, I said quickly. I'm not asking for an answer right now. Another pause. Can I meet her? He asked. My heart skipped slightly. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. Not as anything, he added. Just to understand. That's enough, I said. We ended the call. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt something new. Not relief. Not happiness. But movement. Something had begun. Later that night, I walked into Aisha's room. She was half asleep. Eyes heavy. Papa, she murmured. Yeah, I said softly, sitting beside her. I hesitated, then asked, if someone new came into our lives. She blinked slowly. Would that make you happy? She didn't answer immediately. Then, quietly, only if you're happy too. That answer wasn't what I expected, but it changed everything, because this was never just about her. It was about us. And whatever I was about to do, it wouldn't just affect her. It would change both of our lives. Forever. The next 2 days felt longer than the last 2 years. I kept checking my phone. Every hour. Every few minutes. No message. No call. Hassan was thinking. And somehow, that made everything heavier. Because now it wasn't just an idea anymore. It was real enough to be considered. Aisha, on the other hand, didn't know anything. At least, not yet. She went to school. Came back. Did her homework. Watched her cartoons. Normal. Quiet. Too quiet. But something had changed. I could feel it. She was more careful around me now. More observant. Like she was watching. Waiting. Not for me to fail. But for something to change. And I hated that. Because I didn't know if I was already too late. On the third evening, my phone finally rang. Hassan. My heart skipped. I picked up immediately. Hello. I'll come tomorrow, he said. No greeting. No hesitation. Just a decision. I exhaled slowly. Okay. I don't know what this is yet, he added. I don't either, I admitted. But I'll meet her, he said. That's enough. We ended the call. And just like that, everything became real. That night, I couldn't sit still. I cleaned the house. Twice. Adjusted things that didn't need adjusting. Moved objects that were already in place. I wasn't preparing the house. I was preparing myself. Because tomorrow, my daughter would meet someone who might change her world. And mine. The next day felt slower than time itself. Aisha came home from school around 2 p.m. She walked in quietly, placed her bag down, looked at me. Something's different, she said. I froze. What do you mean? I asked. She shrugged slightly. You look nervous. I forced a small smile. Do I? She nodded. Children. They see everything. I took a breath. Aisha, I said gently. Someone's coming over today. She tilted her head slightly. Who? I hesitated. How do you explain something you don't fully understand yourself? A friend, I said. An old friend. She thought about it, then nodded. Okay. No excitement. No curiosity. Just acceptance. And somehow, that made it even more intense. By evening, everything was ready. The house was clean. Dinner was prepared. And my heart was racing. Then, the doorbell rang. Everything inside me tightened. I looked at Aisha. She looked back at me. Should I open it? She asked. No, I said quickly. I'll get it. I walked to the door slowly, each step heavier than the last. Then I opened it. Hassan stood there. Same calm expression. Same steady eyes. But older. More grounded. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. For a second, we just looked at each other. Years of distance, closing in silence. Then he stepped inside. His eyes moved around the house, taking everything in. And then, they landed on her. Aisha stood a few steps behind me, quiet, observing. "This is Aisha," I said softly. Hassan smiled gently. "Hi," he said, lowering himself slightly to her level. Aisha didn't respond immediately. She just looked at him, carefully, studying him. Then, "Hi." One word, but soft, not closed, not distant, just cautious. That was a good sign. "This is Hassan," I added. "He's an old friend of mine." She nodded, still watching him. There was a pause. Then Hassan did something I didn't expect. He didn't try to impress her, didn't ask too many questions, didn't force a smile. He simply said, "Your father talks about you like you're the most important person in the world." I froze, because I didn't remember saying that. But it was true. Aisha blinked, slightly surprised. "He does?" she asked quietly. Hassan nodded. "All the time." She looked at me, and for a moment, I saw something I hadn't seen in days. A small light. Not full happiness, but something close. "Come," I said gently. "Let's sit." We moved to the living room. At first, it was awkward. Small talk. Simple questions. "What do you like? What do you watch? What's your favorite subject?" Aisha answered politely, but briefly. Still, she wasn't closed off. And that mattered. Then something unexpected happened. She brought her drawings, a whole stack, and started showing them to Hassan. "This one is my school," she said. "And this is my friend. And this is." She paused. Then slowly, she showed him the drawing. The one. 3 figures. I felt my chest tighten. Hassan looked at it carefully. He didn't rush, didn't react too quickly. "Who's this?" he asked gently, pointing to the middle figure. "Me," Aisha said. "And these?" he asked, pointing to the sides. "That's Papa," she said. He nodded, then pointed to the second figure. "And this one?" Silence. Aisha looked at the drawing, then at Hassan. "I don't know yet," she said again. The same words. But this time, they felt different. Because now, that empty space wasn't just an idea. It had a face. Hassan didn't say anything for a moment. Then he smiled softly. "Maybe," he said, "it's someone who hasn't earned their place yet." Aisha blinked. "What do you mean?" she asked. "It means," he said gently, "that spot is important." He looked at her. "And not everyone deserves to stand there." Silence. But not heavy. Thoughtful. Aisha looked at the drawing again. Then slowly, she nodded. And in that moment, something shifted. Not completely. Not clearly. But enough. To change everything. That night, after dinner. After laughter that felt unfamiliar but real. After a moment that felt like something new had quietly entered our lives. Hassan stood near the door, ready to leave. "Thank you," I said quietly. He looked at me. "This isn't simple," he said. "I know. And it won't be easy." "I know." He paused, then added, "But I'll try." Those 3 words meant more than anything else, because this wasn't just about me anymore, or even Aisha. This was something bigger, something fragile, something that could either heal us or break us even more. As the door closed behind him, I looked back at Aisha. She was holding her drawing, staring at that empty space again. But this time, she wasn't confused. She was thinking. And for the first time, so was I. The morning after Hassan left felt different. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly changed. Like something in the air had shifted while I wasn't looking. Aisha woke up earlier than usual. I noticed it immediately, because she didn't come straight to me like she normally did. Instead, she sat on the edge of her bed, holding her drawing, just staring at it. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her, trying to understand what was going on inside her small world. Finally, I spoke softly. "Good morning." She turned her head. "Morning, Papa." Her voice was normal, but her eyes weren't. "Everything okay?" I asked, stepping inside. She nodded slowly, then hesitated. "Papa," she said after a pause, "can I ask you something?" I sat beside her. "Of course." She looked down at the drawing again, then back at me. "Is Uncle Hassan going to stay?" That question hit harder than I expected. I swallowed slightly. "No," I said gently. "He's not living with us." She nodded, but didn't seem fully satisfied. "Then why did he come?" she asked. I hesitated. How do you explain emotional complexity to a child who just wants clarity? "He's helping us," I said carefully. "Helping?" she repeated. "Yes," I nodded. "Helping me understand things better." She stayed quiet, thinking, processing. Then she asked something I wasn't ready for. "Like a second father?" My chest tightened. I opened my mouth, then closed it again, because the truth wasn't simple anymore. "No," I said finally. "Not a second father." She looked at me closely, waiting. "He's just someone who cares," I added. That seemed to settle her slightly, but not completely. She got off the bed, walked to the window. "You looked happy yesterday," she said suddenly. I paused. "What?" "When he was here," she said quietly. "You smiled more." That statement stayed in the air, heavy, honest. I didn't know how to respond, because she was right. I had smiled more, not because I was replacing anything, but because I wasn't carrying everything alone for a moment. And she noticed that. Of course she did. "I'm happy when you're happy," she added softly. That broke something in me again. Quietly, I stood up and walked toward her, knelt down. "Aisha," I said gently, "I don't need someone else to be happy." She looked at me. "But you were," she said. I sighed. A long, slow breath. "I was less tired," I admitted. She nodded, like she understood that better. "And that's okay," I added quickly. "But it doesn't mean anything is missing." She didn't respond, just looked out the window again. But I could feel it. Something was forming inside her thoughts. Something I couldn't fully see yet. Later that day, something unexpected happened. I came home from work earlier than usual, and found Aisha in the living room, sitting with my phone. "What are you doing?" I asked immediately. She jumped slightly, then looked guilty. "I was just," she hesitated, "looking at pictures." "Pictures of what?" I asked, taking the phone. She pointed. "Hassan's photo. From the day he visited." My stomach tightened slightly. "Aisha," I said softly, "that's not something you should be looking at alone." She frowned. "Why?" I paused. Because this was the part one hadn't prepared for. Because children don't just observe change. They start studying it. Because feelings are complicated, I said carefully. She tilted her head. "I don't feel complicated." I almost smiled. "Almost." "No," I said gently. "But adults do." She looked at the screen again, then said something quietly. "I think he's nice." That sentence shouldn't have meant much. But it did. Because it wasn't about approval. It was about connection. And connection is how attachment begins. I took the phone away gently, sat beside her. "You can like him," I said, "but you don't need to replace anyone." She looked at me. "I'm not replacing," she said quickly. "Okay," I nodded. "But," she hesitated, "I like when he talks." That honesty was dangerous. Not because it was wrong, but because it was natural. Children don't calculate emotions. They just follow them. "I understand," I said quietly. And I did. More than I wanted to admit. That evening, Hassan called. I stepped outside to answer. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. But I think she's starting to notice you more. A small silence. Is that bad? He asked. I exhaled slowly. I don't know yet. Another pause. Then he said something simple. I'll be careful. That was it. No drama. No confusion. Just awareness. But even that wasn't enough to calm me. Because I knew something now. Aisha wasn't confused anymore. She was starting to feel. And feelings, once they start forming, don't stop easily. That night, I sat in the living room alone again, watching her sleep through the slightly open door. And I realized something I hadn't fully accepted before. This wasn't just about bringing someone into her life. It was about what she would start wanting from that presence. And whether I could handle it. When she started needing it more.